Last month, I began a series where we look at the handbags from Coach runway shows. We started with Fall 2014, which was Coach's very first show at New York Fashion Week, and today we're looking at the collection from Spring 2015. There were several styles of bags that came out of this show, but there are two in particular that have become especially collectible, and I'm excited to share them with you today, so stay tuned. And welcome, I'm Autumn Beckman, and I'm here to help you live your most luxurious life within your budget. I post new videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so please make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of those. And so you don't miss my daily community posts where I share the best sales of the day and fabulous handbags that I find. Also, don't miss my website, autumnbeckman.com/shop. That's where you'll find handbags and accessories I have for sale, as well as the My Handbag Collection Organizer, which are planner pages that I've designed to help you organize and curate your handbags and your life. The heart of which is the item tracker page. This is where you can record all the details about your handbags and your small goods. There are also wish list trackers, purchase trackers, a variety of calendar pages so you can pick the layout that works best for you, project planning pages, several different habit trackers, and so much more. The Spring 2015 runway show was Coach's second show at New York Fashion Week. And it was actually held in September of 2014 because the runway shows are always a season ahead. However, this wasn't technically a runway show yet. It was what was called a presentation. This is where instead of a runway, there was a stage that the models walked across with the ready-to-wear clothing and the handbags and accessories. And they had like an LCD screen behind them with a background projected. In this case, it was a scene of a highway in the panhandle of Texas. And there were some elements on the stage that were like a gas station. The colors that you'll see are bright colors, of course, because it's a spring show. And you'll notice that some of them will be metallics. All of the handbags this time around were leather, whereas the fall show also used suede, which of course is leather, and shearling. And you'll see several bags that have metal studs on them. For the theme of this show, the designer Stuart Vevers, who was fairly new to Coach at that time and is still their designer today, he was still pulling inspiration from the American West. Now, if you remember, Stuart Vevers is not from America, he is from England, and he worked for Louis Vuitton, under Marc Jacobs, Givenchy, and Loewe. And when he came to America to start working for Coach, this very American brand, he pulled inspiration from America itself. And it's interesting, in Vogue's coverage of this show at the time, they said that he's bringing his London vibes to Coach. They said it's a youthful, playful, and a bit twisted collection. You'll see what they mean by that in just a minute. You'll notice on several of the bags that there are some themes that continue from that first show, the Fall-Winter 2014 show. So we still have Western elements coming in. We still have the studs. There's a style of bag that reappears, and there's even a bag that reappears. So let's get started looking at these bags, and we'll start with the saddle bag because that makes sense. I don't know the official name of this bag. If you do, please let us know. But for the most part, it's a very simple messenger style bag with saddlebag vibes. All of them that walked the runway had studs on them, and I see three different sizes. There's this medium size, plus this little miniature version. And there's this larger one, which is giving much more messenger bag vibes. Potentially even motorcycle vibes, like we talked about in the previous show. I'm also getting vintage Coach classic pouch vibes from this bag. There are definitely similarities there. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Stuart Vevers pulled this design from the archives and altered it a bit. He most certainly did that with this next vibe, which has some overall similarities in shape to that first bag, but this looks much more to me like the vintage Coach Courier, because you can see that front flap, how it has the tab, but instead of that tab weaving through a little leather almost buckle-like feature, like the original Courier. This one, he's taken the classic Coach turnlock from Bonnie Cashin days, and of course she designed the original Courier and the classic pouch. And he's made this big oversized, exaggerated version of that turnlock and used that as the bag closure. You'll see it comes in some smooth leathers here in a few different colors, but we also have one that looks like croc. I don't know if it's real croc or if it's mock croc, but that's a really interesting bag that I also don't know the name of, so if you know, please let us know. I feel like it's also not one I've ever come across on the Preloved market, so if you know if that was even released, please let us know that in the comments below. And there's one more bag that I don't recognize from having seen it before, And that's this one. It looks like a satchel bag, but sort of a cross between a satchel and a tote, but like a really slouchy tote. Because you see it has those two top handles, but it also has this crossbody strap. And the ends of the top of the satchel, like the ends of the zipper, they're very floppy. They just fold over on all of these bags. It has a big front pocket, and it looks like a pretty sizable bag. I'm only seeing one size of it, and not a whole lot of variation. There's a little bit of a two-tone going on, or some with studs, but not a lot else. It's an interesting bag. Kind of like to know more about it. If you know, let us know in the comments. And now let's get to the bags I do know more about, because they've become very, very popular and collectible since they were released in this collection. Probably the biggest one that most of you, I think, would recognize is the Swagger bag. So the spring 2015 show is when that bag was first released, and it just blew up. They ended up doing so many different versions of this bag. There were at least 3 different sizes of it. I know I've seen little tiny mini versions, I've seen more of a regular size, and the larger satchel that you could take to work. And they released it in just about any color you could think of, as well as in metallic leathers. And I have a lot of these linked in the description box below, and they range in price from maybe $70 up to a couple hundred, depending on the bag and who's selling it. So if this bag interests you, check out the links below, because there's so much variety to be found. And when I was researching for this video, I looked at a page from Vogue, and I also looked at Purseblog, which I'm sure a lot of you have come across many times in doing your own handbag research. And Purseblog was interesting, not only for their articles, but because below their articles they have a comment section. And it's always interesting to go back in time and see what people were saying about this at that time. The show, and you'll see in the next thing I'm going to show you too, was pretty controversial. And it's very similar to the kinds of comments that Coach gets today when they release new things. Because they have people who love Coach for the classics, particularly the vintage bags, and then they'll have people who love Coach for the more fun experimental things they do. And generally, the people who are into the classics hate the fun experimental stuff, and they are not afraid to say so in the comment sections. And one of the comments that kept coming up about the Swagger bag, and some other things we'll talk about, is that it looks like a knockoff of a Birkin to some people. And I thought that was really interesting because I've known about the Swagger bag for a long time. I'm used to seeing it. I see it and I recognize it for what it is. So when I see it, I don't think Birkin. But I can see how people at that time, 2015, would have, and I just thought that was interesting. Now, the other major thing to come out of this show was a collaboration that Coach did with Gary Baseman. This is not Coach's first artist collaboration, but it might have been Stuart Vevers' first. I'm not sure on that. I would have to do some more research. Gary Baseman is an American artist, an illustrator, cartoonist, and he comes up with these characters that are, on one hand, are these cute animals like bunnies, but then he makes them kind of dark. And in the comment section, boy, a lot of people did not like that, especially on handbags. And again, we see the same thing today with Labubus, for example. And for this show, Coach brought back a bag that they'd introduced in the Fall/Winter 2014 bag, the Tatum tote, and they've put the Gary Baseman characters on that tote, as well as a few others. That bag is particularly collectible. If you find them pre-loved, expect to pay quite a bit for them. And people in the comment section also said that they thought this was kind of a ripoff of Fendi Monsters, which had been out by that time and which had been a really big thing. And other people corrected them, no, this is an artist collaboration. But it is an interesting parallel, and it makes you wonder if the Fendi Monsters' success had anything to do with Gary Baseman's work being chosen by Coach. So these characters, I think a lot of people either love them or hate them, but one thing that a lot more people come together on that came out of this show is the wild beast print. So this is a leopard print that has, it's like drippy leopard print. And I know people have gone crazy over these over the years where they've become collectible. At this point, Coach had not yet released the Coach Rogue, but there was a Rogue eventually that had the drippy wild beast leopard print on it. I think it was done in calf hair. And I know that piece is pretty valuable in the pre-loved market. It's definitely collectible. And even if you just hate these characters so much and you don't know why anybody would like them, Well, apparently they were incredibly popular because Coach eventually released tons and tons of pieces that have the characters on them, and lots with the Wild Beast print too. Eventually, I will do a video going over this whole Baseman collaboration and all the pieces I can find that came out of it, but there's not time for that today. So overall, I thought there were a couple interesting comments to share about this show. Someone commented, which designer did he not rip off? I see Celine, Hermes, Valentino, Givenchy. There are some pretty bags there, but he stole a lot of ideas from other designers. And what I love about this comment is someone else's response to this comment. Get this. And if you are a Coach fan, you'll love this. This person says, look back to vintage Coach and see how much Celine, Hermes, Valentino, and Givenchy took from them. Thank you, Bonnie Cashin, they say. And I think that's fascinating because you always think, there's this thing in fashion where everybody copies each other, but you always think of it as a tiered system. So Hermes isn't copying anybody, Louis Vuitton's not copying anybody beneath them, right? Like Coach would be. But it does make you wonder whether that happens. I mean, Stuart Vevers is from those luxury brands, Louis Vuitton, Givenchy, Loewe. So he definitely has that influence. And people over there know him, so why would they not be looking at him and his designs and potentially pulling things from him? Or looking into Coach history and pulling things from there, like they're saying from Bonnie Cashin, whose influence carries through still today with Coach. And another comment, and I thought this was not specific to this show or to Coach, I just thought it was a really interesting comment that could open up a conversation if you wanted to talk about it. Someone said, I stay away from any purse that I can't leave to my children. And I thought that was a kind of fascinating look into someone's buying habits and what they consider when they buy bags. Because that's something we talk about on these channels, is building a collection. And what bags do you buy? Do you buy the classics that you know will never go out of style so you feel like you're getting more of your money's worth? Or do you buy bags that you're really drawn to and you love, even if they're not classics and they may go out of style, but you love them, and that's what's really important. And I thought that was interesting that this person is basically saying, I don't buy bags for myself, I buy bags for my children. I buy my own bags for my children. And I can get that on one hand, that you want to spend your money wisely and have bags that will be timeless, right? But then you're also really limiting yourself, unless that's really your style too. But it sounds like the way they worded that comment that they have this very strict, narrow guideline for what they allow themselves to buy. And I just thought that was really interesting. What about you? What do you think about that? But back to this collection, I have 2 pieces from this collection, and in my next video, I'm going to show you what those 2 pieces are and go over all the details with you. So I hope you'll come back for that. Let me know what you think of this show in the comment section below, and while you're down there, please check out the description box to see all those swagger bags that I have linked. I'll also have some Gary Baseman bags linked, and please check out my website, autumnbeckman.com/shop. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Hope to see you back here next time, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.